USDA predicts the nation's farmers will record a net farm income of $122.2 billion this year. That would be an increase of 3.7% from 2011. Tina Barrett explained at the end of August how possible that scenario was. And as we approach the end of this year, we talked with Tina again about tax options at the close of another strong season for many Nebraska producers.
Irrigated crop producers, and even though it was an expensive crop to produce, there was a good crop out there for most everyone.
Let's talk about the guys that did a little bit better than most, the guys that are going to have some income. The changes for this year, that you say there are some changes for depreciation.
Right. You know, we've been the last few years with this seemingly almost unlimited depreciation in the first year, and this year we've got $139,000 that we can use for Section 179. So that's any new or used asset with a life class of less than 20 years. So that covers most everything. And then we have a 50% bonus depreciation rather than a 100% bonus. So we only get to write off half of those brand new assets rather than all of them. So it really puts some constraints on how much depreciation we can take where we've been used to taking a lot.
I joked with you we'd be seeing some new pickups over the next few months.
You know, I don't know. You know, it's funny that a lot of the producers that I'm doing some early tax planning with, you know, they've hit that maximum already. So we might not see as many late year purchases as we've seen in the past.
A lot of producers already made the decision about whether or not to take this income this year or push it to next, with some harvest already probably selling out of the field.
I've certainly been doing more tax planning in October than I've ever done, and got more phone calls on the combine of whether or not we should sell at these great harvest prices.
Right.
Those things are tough to say without sit down and looking at some numbers, and so it's really important to do some tax planning and find out which side of those years we're on, because we're talking about dollars so big that one or two corn sales one way or the other makes a big difference.
And when you look at next year, I'm sure it's hard to plan in a number of ways. We'll talk about what the election could do in a bit here, but input costs are, I'm sure, as high as they've been in a few recent years.
Sure. We're not seeing drops, significantly in any input costs. We're not seeing huge increases necessarily either in the early planning that I've been doing for next year, but I think that margin is going to continue to tighten, and especially if crop prices we don't have the drought scare next year, and next year looks to be a good year, we might see a really tight margin. There's a lot of variability out there.
Do you sense that as a concern yet, the drought?
Well, I think there's a lot of things. The dryland guys don't have a lot of moisture left in the soil. They're worried about that. Irrigated guys are worried about another irrigation season like this one that none of them want to repeat. So even just the stress on the labor was bad, let alone the irrigation bills.
We're talking on Monday. It's good. We're getting in before the election here, so we don't have to worry about, picking one way or the other. But how volatile could this be? How much could it shake it up?
There's a lot of tax laws that are expiring the end of this year. And what whoever does to fix it, whether it's, the Congress that's still in place in December, hopefully they take control and at least do something for us. But even as we move forward the next 2 and 4 years, trying to put some long-term planning in place is going to be huge, because a 2-year extension is great, but it puts us right back in the same place in 2 years with uncertainty. We've got uncertainty in the state taxes, we've got uncertainty in depreciation and tax rates. It really makes it tough to plan when we have nothing to work with.
Especially in the short term. There's really, at this point at least, as we speak today, there's really nothing in the short term that proves one way or the other.
No, and we don't know what's going to happen, but even if we have a strong majority one way or the other, there's still a lot of debate within parties as to what those right things should be. So, there's a lot of people working together to make those decisions, and hopefully decisions can be made is probably the more important thing.
For producers across Nebraska, if it wasn't such a good year, and we're probably looking at some livestock guys that really had to pay for feed costs over the course of the summer, what do you recommend to them?
I think this is just as important, if not more important, year to do tax planning. We've got drought issues that we need to talk with a tax preparer about as far as deferring income, deciding if that is the right thing to do to defer income. A lot of times tax planning in a low income year is way more important than in a high year. And so it's something we need to pay attention to.